Hello, everyone. Welcome to Friends and Authors Live. I'm Rosalinda Roman here with my good friend A.K. Vias, Ash, as I like to call him, and everyone calls you. I always do that. So weird with your name. I'm not used to like the whole pen name thing. I mean, everybody that is your reader knows you as A.K. Vias, right? But I know you as Ash.
Yeah,
How
pretty
are
much.
you?
Great, Rosalind. Good to catch up with you this week.
Yeah. We had it's been a wild ride since I saw you last.
Yeah, a lot going on. A lot going on. We had a it's like what did you say? Drinking from a fire hose. The amount of
Yeah,
information we had with Blake. It was good stuff though.
right.
Really good stuff.
Yeah, Yeah, so people who are new here, we do this show every Tuesday at 1 o'clock Mountain Time. I think it's 9 o'clock in Berlin. And last week we had an epic interview with Blake Hudson. And it was our longest show ever, an hour and a half, a little more than an hour and a half. And it was so well received. I've already gotten so many compliments and so many people commenting on how much they appreciated the information. We'll definitely have to have him back on because he basically is an expert on Facebook ads for authors, for indie authors. Yeah, I'm still processing everything that he taught us.
It was a lot. It was a lot. No, we'll definitely have to have him back on, and there'll be questions we have down the road, and also everything. It's a moving target. Facebook will change their algorithm. Who knows? A year from now, it could be right back to where it was, pre 2024. Right. So it's
Right.
constant evolution.
For sure. Yeah, did you already implement any of the things that he talked about?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Like what?
Uh, I I have two campaigns going now. One for my main historical fiction series, The Eagle Feather, which I had not uh, actively marketed to the UK. I'd only marketed it to the States. And as a test, I started a campaign completely in Blake's style with the 20 creatives and the budget he recommended, and I launched that the day after. So I guess last Wednesday. So it's close to close to a week that I've been running ads in the UK, a la Blake's method.
And what's your initial? I know it's way too early for any real data, but what's your initial impression?
It's doing better than anything I had before. So
Already.
it's a small data set. It's not as big as campaigns as I've run in the past, but the return on ad spend is a lot higher. So we'll see. We'll see. I think he's onto something good, but it's still early. We'll see.
Yeah, it is still early. Well, I haven't touched my Facebook ads at all for obvious reasons because I have been in the middle of launch week. So since I saw you, I thought that it was going to launch on the 28th, which was the last show we did. It launched 2 days later, so it was book 5 in my mystery thriller series, Catalina's Chronicles, and it was the final book. We did some promos to correspond with the launch, putting book 1 of the series free for I think it was a week or 5 days, something like that, and it skyrocketed to number 1 on Amazon's bestseller list for Hispanic American literature and women's crime fiction, and it got up to number 3 in conspiracy thrillers, which was super exciting. And I wonder if I could share my screen and show you one little thing that really shocked me. Hang on one second, let me find it. Yeah, so I can. I think I can share my screen. The book that was released, so number 5, Mortal Treason, was added. If you look right here, it says number 1 new release in Hispanic American literature under Amazon Hot New Releases. It's number 2 now, but for the past 5 days, it was at number 1 here on the Amazon Hot New Releases list. So that's exciting because that means Amazon is putting their marketing power behind my book, which is super exciting. And then all of the books, all five, were in the top 50 not new releases, but on the bestseller list. So all five books were made it to the top 50 at one point or another, because there's simultaneous promos that get shared. Where I think right now books 2, 3, and 4 are at like 99 cents. Now book 1 I think it went back up to full price. But yeah, it's kind of this weird game that I'm not sure I'm playing it right or doing it the right way, but trying to figure out like, okay, how do we get more people to find the book initially, the series, and then if they like it, then they can, get the rest of the series. And they do read through, because they're all available in Kindle Unlimited, right? So even if they get the first book for free, if they like it, they can continue reading the series in Kindle Unlimited. So that's the theory behind it, at least.
Yeah, absolutely. It was actually one of the points that Blake made as well. It said it was his one rule that he consistently violates, and it's kind of there's arguments both ways, and as people who put our heart and soul into our work, we consider it our art and our babies, so to speak. It's hard because on the one hand you hear people saying, well, quality matters, price matters, and if you have a quality product, you shouldn't be offering it at a discount. On the other hand, if you have a series with decent read-through, you're actually in the read-through business. You need, by any way necessary, to get as many people from book 1 to book 2 and past book 2. Because if you get it past book 2, there's a good chance they're going to stick around for the rest of the series, right? And one of Blake's points was, if you recall, he said, all the success they've had over the years and everything they've done, their most successful series was still their first series, and one that they had a lot of success with, giving book 1 away for free or charging 99 cents for it, which is not is the 35% royalty on Amazon, which is daunting, right? But
Right.
if you're getting twice as many shots on goal or 3 times as many shots on goal as a full price book, and you're converting half of those, it's definitely worth it. If you can get past the stigma of, well, my book's worth more than 99 cents. That's ridiculous,
Right.
But, if you sell enough books, you're going to make a lot more money, right? So,
Yeah. Yeah, and it's tricky because now there are so many books on the market. And so even if you have the most amazing book, which, you and I of course do, how do people find you that have never heard of you in this, like, going back to the fire hose analogy, like they're just getting inundated by, book offers, and even on my page on Amazon, there's like, I don't know, it feels like there's a dozen other people's books that are offered up along with your book. So, they may land on your page, but then somebody else's cover might be more interesting, or it's just all of these little things that hopefully people overlook. Try your book, and then, but the challenge is to get them to try it in the first place, because you only have so many hours in the day to read a book, right? So how do you choose which book you read? We start with family and friends, and I'm in that phase because, this is my first series, where I'm asking family and friends to spread the word and get it out there. But then you move into something like what Blake is doing with Facebook ads, and you're introducing it to people who didn't even know they wanted your book, but will love it once they find it.
Yeah, there are lots of different ways. I've met authors who do all Facebook ads, all digital, social media. Others who don't do any of it all and make a decent living just with in-person events and traditional marketing, that sort of thing. But I think, at least what I've seen, Facebook ads are one way to consistently scale a number of successful 6, 7, in one case 8-figure authors that we know. Facebook ads are pretty much the cornerstone of their marketing strategy. But the interesting thing is the landscape is changing a lot with your favorite topic, Rosalinda, AI. It's changed the way people discover books. right?
Yeah.
So I did some work on that myself for my books.
Okay.
Since we
Yeah.
last talked.
Let's talk about that. But it also changed the way some people write books. I'll say in quotes, air quotes. But yeah, definitely, it's changing the landscape on discoverability, right?
Yeah, so I'm not going to talk about writing or the creative process at all. I'm just
I
going to
know.
talk about uh, basically what's changed with the internet, right? So the way it used to be, and it feels weird saying the internet used to be this way because I remember when there wasn't an internet. Is
Right.
is is you type something into a search and then it populates on the screen, and then the challenge is to be on that first page, because if you're not on that first page, you're not there. You need to be there. That
Right.
was SEO, search engine optimization. Now we have GEO, as you know, because unless you specifically opt out of it, and that's actually harder to do than you think. I just figured out how to do that. If you're doing a Google search, it'll automatically put you in the AI Gemini, Google's, and then you have to, like, go say no, go back to all or news or whatever you're looking
Right.
for. So you know that's changed. So if you look at the three largest search engines now, ChatGPT is one. Then there's Gemini and Claude. The thing is, though, only Gemini has a massive search engine, probably the most used one, Google Chrome, behind it. So if the majority of people are still using Google Chrome, what I found out was, and you could just ask Gemini, you could ask the AI about the AI, how do you go about searching books? And it says a couple things. One of the first things it says is, well, I go to Google Books, which is perfectly logical because it's all Google, right? They're going to go to their, just like Amazon prefers Amazon and promoting
Right.
themselves. So's Google. Now, this is interesting because if you're in KU, like we both are, and a bunch of authors are, and more of my money is made in KU through the subscription than it actually is physical or ebook sales.
Which is Kindle
You know,
Unlimited for people who don't know.
exactly. You are contractually obligated not to sell your books anywhere, so you actually cannot have your books on
In
on
Google Books.
in Google Books. However, there is a workaround. You have to be very precise, but you're allowed to have up to 10% of your book listed there, and it can't be for sale. So what you do is you take your EPUB or your PDF for your book, and I don't even mess with it. I delete everything but the first chapter. So there's no way I'm exceeding the 10%. And then you can upload all of your books onto Google Books, even if you're in KU, as long as you're not exceeding more than 10% of the content, which falls within the parameters KU is fine with. And then when a person goes and searches uh, women's thriller, Hispanic fiction, Hispanic detectives, you're gonna in Google, it's going to go straight to Gemini, which is going to go straight to Google Books, and you will pop up, because when people search now, and it's Gemini searching, it doesn't have the pages. It does the work for you, and it just gives you a list of the top female detective sleuth books, and you want to be in that list, right? So one very easy way to do that is to make 10% copies of all your books and upload them to Google Books.
That's so interesting. So you're going to be in the top of the discoverability. That makes a lot of sense and brilliant, Ash. I love that you just talked about that. But then, how does that lead to somebody actually buying your book, or is that just bringing them into your ecosystem?
Yeah, so I've already done this with one of the books so far, and there, you have to be precise. It defaults to 20%, and you can actually choose do not sell this for what's the word, preview only, right? And so if you try to sell it, it will you can't buy it there, right? So then the person will find their way to Amazon. But when they Googled the kind of book you want, like what's the best book, like Clan of the Cave Bearer, hopefully the Eagle Feather shows up, right? Because Google is the preeminent search engine still, right?
And
So until
so
that
in the
changes.
Google search, it will have the link to your book in Amazon, but in Google Books, it will just be a preview.
Exactly. But if it's not in Google Books, it searches Google Books first. So that's
Yeah.
one of the things it does. The other thing it does, and this is, I changed my landing page on Amazon, and we talked about it, and I noticed you have since done that as well for Death Wounds. Um, the whole with the whole Amazon A10 algorithm, it's changed in some ways. The search process on the Amazon side as well. Um, for example, the what we call, I guess, frequently asked questions, which I chuckled at first, which was actually telling people not only what your book's about, but when to read it, how to read it, and what the comps are, right? Like, read this on a beautiful New Mexico sunset when the green chilies are blooming, right? Like, oh, okay, but they're saying once again for Gemini discoverability, and everything here is targeting Gemini. You want that on your website, right? So if you go to the top secret website Danny King is building for me to be GEO optimized, it actually has on my book page. It actually has reviews, and then it actually has read the Eagle Feather when it's a dark, stormy night and you want to get lost in adventure. And those, I think they're corny, but once again, the GEO wants as much information as possible. And it all plays back in. You were talking about real estate on your Amazon landing page. That's
Yeah.
very, very valuable, even more so now with this new algorithm, because Amazon, if you notice, if you don't fill the space up on your landing page, they will fill it up with other people's books. They will. So I
Yeah.
have,
You've been
I
bugging
have,
me about that forever. You're like, that's the A plus content, right?
that's the A plus content, and then for each book, I have an interview with a local little book club. The lady who runs that interviews me, and I also have the A plus content. So basically, they still try to take any open real estate there. But if you keep scrolling down on my page, 80% of the stuff on that page links back to me as opposed to 30% linking back to me. Because the last thing you want is to pay for a Facebook ad, someone to click on the link, get to the Amazon page, be all excited to buy your book, and then see another book in your genre at a better price with more reviews sitting there.
Yeah.
you know, and then
Yeah.
that happens, but I don't want to help the process, right?
Yeah. You
So,
know it happens to a certain point, but why make it easy for them?
right, right, right. So, yeah, so basically the three things I've done to improve GEO discoverability: one, put 10% previews of all the books, even the ones in KU, up onto upload them onto Google Books. Two, add the frequently asked questions to my website. And three, make sure that my Amazon landing page has as much information as possible about me. So when this Gemini search engine looks me up, it's going to look at the A plus content. It's going to look at the frequently asked questions. It's going to look at my reviews. It's going to look at the author interview, and I'm basically helping it identify my book and flagging it as something desirable in the category or search.
Interesting. That's really good stuff. I can't wait to see how just these little changes will make, I really think that will make a big difference for you. I mean, I know you were doing well already, but it's like you want to take it to the next level and all these little things. And I do think that Blake's conversation sparked new thoughts in us. Like, okay, we've been plugging along, doing some of the things that were recommended, but like you said, the landscape is changing. And so how to, what to do next. I mean, from the Ireland Publishing Show, which is now the indie network in Ireland, there was a session, Stuart, I forget his last name, from the Digital Authors Toolkit. He talked about the GEO, which is, I think it stands for Generative Engine Optimization.
Exactly.
And that's essentially what you're talking about. And he was talking about needing to describe the images on your website. And he said something like, optimized for, like, you're basically selling to the robots. You're writing for the humans, but you're selling to the robots or something like that.
No,
And I
that's
really think
right.
that applies because they're looking at it differently. I mean, the fact that they go to Google Books to search for, which books are the best, when really most people do not read books through Google Books. They find it through Amazon, right? So the fact that that's good to know. I actually just heard, I read somewhere some report about when new hires. Okay, when somebody is being hired for a job, and they had all these candidates fill out, like, write an essay or something like that, and they tested the percentage that used AI to get this, and they had, it was a study, so they had half of them do the essay all by themselves, and then half did the essay using the guidance and recommendations from AI. And the AI recommended, but then the people, that the way they were combing through the applicants was the AI was doing it, right? So they found that the AI was, and it was a huge percentage. I want to say it was like 90% of the time they chose the candidates that used not just AI to help with their, refine their essays, but the one that used, because they split it into different AI programs, and the ones like, so say ChatGPT helped advise somebody on their essay, then the Chat GPT that was doing the hiring or helping advise the hirers always chose the one that used their AI instead of the one that was, I don't know what the other ones are, Claude or whatever. So in other words, it favored its own ecosystem and it favored its own ideas over even the AI from a platform. So and that I thought was mind blowing. I'll have to find that article.
Yeah, one of the things that Danny taught me to do was have the AIs fight each other, right? Which you'll enjoy, right? So, for example, one of the things he's helping me with is I took my book description or my landing page description, which I think you've changed yours as well, and I just put it in Gemini, and I said, how do I make this show up better on your searches? And then I put the same thing in ChatGPT and asked it, how do I make this show up better in your searches? And then the advice that one gave me, I asked the other. I asked Gemini. Like I was like stirring the pot, right? I said, well, Gemini, you say do this, this, and this, but ChatGPT says this, this, and this. So where are you right and where are they wrong, and vice versa? So they start critiquing each other, and you start learning things. Like, for example, the Eagle Feather is a prehistoric series. The thing about AI is it's not this, omnipotent, all-knowing thing. It's actually a very, at this point, dumb predictive engine. It's trying to finish your sentence for you, right? So, yes, it will give you suggestions, but some of them are ridiculous. Like, for example, the Eagle Feather is in a prehistoric historical fiction series, and it was suggesting for authenticity, start using like the scientific names of the era and stuff. Gemini was, and I said, okay, that's ridiculous. No one wants to know the prehistoric age versus this age. It's a story about a family trying to survive in the wilderness, right? So it's more drama than a science report. And then, then ChatGPT will say, okay, but one of the things about your story is the domestication of the first wolf into a dog, which is a huge draw. So it has gems that it gives you, and then it has absolute ridiculous nonsense that you got to push back on, right?
Interesting. Yeah. As someone who does not use AI or does my best not to, I see the ways that it can be good and the ways that it is maddening. I actually, because Blake's interview was so long and we had some tech issues, so I wanted to go through and edit out some of those segments that we were frozen or audio dropped out. And I was going through and I asked in Descript, which is the editing software that I've been using, they have this thing called the Underlord. And the Underlord is just like their AI tools helper. And I have tried it a couple times now. I was a Final Cut Pro certified pro editor. So like for me, I want to do all these robust editing things, and the AI is like, yeah, no, I don't think that we're doing that. We can't do that. We can't do that. And then like, but then I'll say, well, but yes, you can. Here's how, you put the limiter on, or you do this. And then they're like, oh, that's right. You're right. And I'm just like, it's an interesting process. I just cannot, I've used it probably 3 different times to just, there's something that I don't know about the app that I need quick answers on. And so I can see the appeal, I can see the benefit, and I just, I don't know. I'm happy with my little workflow.
The way I think about it at this point is it's a 12-year-old, incredibly industrious person who was born and raised in the Library of Congress, has not read a single book, has never left the Library of Congress, and knows nothing. But if you tell it to go look for something and you give it good instructions, it's efficient at going and finding what it thinks you want, right?
Yeah.
So, but we'll see.
Yeah. Very interesting. Well, and I love the way that the way I watch you taking the tools, taking what works and leaving the rest. I think, what I worry about is people just drinking the Kool-Aid and doing exactly what things are being thrown at them. And then they're like, I don't even know what I'm doing, and they have no sense of how to do it themselves, and that worries me. And I guess it worries me because I have a 15-year-old son, and I'm always aware, like, use your own brain. He's learning to drive, and he's like, oh, can we use the cruise control? And I'm like, nope, you need to learn how to understand how to regulate speed on your own, and how to not go into the ditch on your own. And you don't need the lane guides. You need to actually learn how to do it yourself. And I feel that in a lot of this stuff. It's not that it's a problem to use the tools, but if you don't know what you're even asking or what your end goal is, and then you're using the tools and you're using it as kind of a replacement for your own instincts and intuition and knowledge, then I have a problem with it.
I don't think that should be the issue. I think it's just a big problem for any author, especially an independent one, is you've written this wonderful book, you've got it edited, people need to read it. If you can identify your readers and get in front of them, everybody's happy. The way books are discovered seems like it's radically changing now. That doesn't mean you need to adapt to GEO, in my opinion. It doesn't mean you abandon the traditional venues as well. Like the other thing I wanted to talk about really quick was draft to digital and how the books are doing in libraries, because that's the opposite end of the spectrum. That's the very human, interactive, physical, old school way of getting your books in libraries and bookstores, right? Very different. Yeah. Direct interaction versus all the social media AI stuff, right?
Yeah, so tell me about that, because I know it was a few weeks ago that you actually put, so just to back up for anyone that's new here, the Amazon used to be that you could only have it in Amazon when you were in Kindle Unlimited, and then they changed the rules and allowed us to add our books to libraries, which is really cool. I have not done that yet, but you were working on that a few weeks ago.
Yes, so the service they recommend, and I highly recommend this too, is Draft to Digital. And basically the way it works is you can upload your ebooks that are still in Kindle Unlimited, which cannot be sold anywhere else, to Draft to Digital for their library distribution program, which allows you to sell your books, your ebooks, through Draft to Digital, even if they're in KU, to libraries all across the world. And I enrolled in the program at the end of March. It's not, I've had some sales, and not a ton, obviously, but it's just starting. But there's some very important changes happening at Draft to Digital, and there's a timeline here, a deadline that people should be aware of. And the magic date, at least in the short term, is May 14th. So basically, 9 days from now?
Wow. What is the deadline for?
$20. So here's the deal.
What does that mean?
$20. So if you open a Draft to Digital account, I advise you to do it before May 14th because it's free to do so. They are trying to combat this, rampant AI spamming of books, of people who will,
Yeah.
we've talked about this, who will upload tons of poor quality books in the hopes of making 10 or 15 bucks a book. So they're doing two things because these people only do it because it's frictionless, right? So they're trying to impose a $20 fee, account open fee, as of May 14th. So Rosalind, to get it done before then and save yourself
Oh,
the
I
20
have an
bucks.
account already.
Okay,
I've had
okay,
that
yeah,
account.
if you have it. And secondly, they if your drafted digital account doesn't sell $100 worth of books in a 12-month period, they're going to charge you 12 bucks that year. And the idea being, once again, we'll see if it works, but it deters some of these irresponsible AI opportunists, right, from flooding those books onto the site. Now, a lot of folks were upset by that. They think that could increase. The way I look at it, it's $1 a month. It's kind of the price of business if you want to be a professional author. And if it
Yeah.
stifles some of this rampant uploading, so be it. But those are kind of the two things. So
That's
I would
interesting. And
say,
if you think about that in terms of just looking at the overall indie author space, like in a way it might serve us in the long run because you have less competition when you don't have all those lousy, quick buck kind of books that are being thrown in there. So it's worth 12 bucks.
I think 12 bucks is doable. But this is the idea. This is what they're trying, right? So as far as covering, the 12 bucks and 100 bucks worth of books in a year, just from what I've seen in library sales, I think most authors, if they have all their books in all the thousands of libraries across America and the world, I think you'll be able to cover 100 bucks.
I
I
hope
hope so.
so. I don't
Yeah.
know. I mean, yes, I hope that's true. I also think, you know, watching how much I make or don't make from a book launch where I have, I'm at the top of the list, number one in several categories. I made just barely over 100. I made like $150. So, I think it's also fair to say that there are a lot of authors that is a lot of money because they're not making that. And that must be very discouraging. But one of the things that I saw our friend Steve doing is he's kind of spreading the word about it to his friends and family and extended network and asking his readers, hey, go down to your local library and ask for my book because they will potentially add it. But if they don't know about it, they can never discover it, just like any other platform.
And it's even easier than that. They can go online with most libraries with Libby or something like that and order the books. I did the same thing. My Facebook group. I said, hey, if you can, would you mind doing this next time you're at the library or online? And there's grassroots physical things that you can do in that regard. The other thing is I have Emily, who's this lovely lady who works for Steve Higgs, who helps authors with Steve's author help agency. Uh, we're talking tomorrow about the process of getting all of my print books, which are wide, obviously. They're currently only on Amazon, to get up with Ingram Spark and get into the bookstores pretty much all across the world as well, right? So that's the process. And then there's steps with that too. There's things as I'm learning. The way the bookstores look at we just talked to the libraries. The way the bookstores look at print books is different, and you'll understand some of this. First of all, they loathe Amazon, right? Which
Yeah,
kind of makes
yeah,
sense, right? Like it's
yeah.
kind of like if you own a little gourmet boutique coffee shop, you're not going to buy your beans from Starbucks, right? It's
Right,
not.
right.
They're the competition, right? So you kind of have to use Ingram Spark or something like that. Where it gets a little egregious, at least for my taste, they want a 53% discount from for the retail price. So if your book's $12, that your print book, so people are adjusting by pricing the books higher. And the one of the other issues is they prefer no returns, which I'm not sure if I'm willing to do that or not. Which means they might
Yeah.
not shelve my books, but I've heard horror stories from author friends who've gotten $8,000 December surprises just in time for the holiday, because Amazon will actually buy a bunch of books from Ingram Spark because they're cheaper, decide they can't sell them, and then just refund them to you at a loss, right? So
Yeah, I don't
you have to
want to
know
get
that.
into that myself either. I thought about that, but that is going to be a conversation for another day. We are not doing a Blake length show
No,
today.
no,
But you
no.
were a wealth of information today, Ash. I'm really excited to follow some of that, and I think we should do a follow up on some of the things that you're tackling and see how it's working now that you've been implementing all these new strategies. Yeah, it's very exciting.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah. And I have to give you a little hard time. You didn't notice. I cut all my
I
hair
did.
off.
Oh,
You're such a guy.
guys don't notice things. Okay, I didn't even have a word for. I still don't know what that hair thingy was that I saw in Boston back in Easter. Right?
It's a
There's
scrunchie.
scrunchies.
It's a scrunchie.
Yeah,
Oh, all right. Well, it's a good thing you're writing that knuckle dragon prehistoric stuff because it fits sometimes,
I'm
but not
eminently
most of the
qualified.
time. I know you're awesome though. But actually, if it's any consolation, my own son, like I picked him up. He knew I was going to get a haircut, and he no comment, nothing. And I mean, I cut off like 8 inches. This is not a small haircut.
I'll say for I know your son, and not, my only comment there is the force is strong in that one. Right. So
Sure, he's special. He's wonderful. He's awesome. All right. All right. On that note, I'm going to wrap it up. Thank you all for watching Friends and Authors Live. If you get this, you're going to catch this in the replay. Drop us a note. Let us know what you're interested in hearing about, on future episodes, because we love exploring different topics. But, what do you want to hear about? Anything else you want to add, Ash, before we wrap it up?
no, you've got good momentum going with this launch. Keep it going. You know.
Thank you. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see long term. All right, everyone. This is Friends and Authors Live. I'm Rosalinda Roman with AK Vias, and we will see you soon.
Bye,
Bye.
everyone.